Oh, hey there. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for checking out this video. Today we're going to do a little plein air study of lily pads. We're on Blue Mountain Lake, which is a beautiful little lake here located near the heart of the Poconos, right where we live, and we're going to paint that group of lily pads there. This is more of a study, if you will, just looking to study the color relationships and the value relationships, and at the end of the day, maybe we'll get a nice painting. We're going to be using acrylic paints, and we're going to be using a small 5x7 canvas panel and my homemade handheld easel, which was made of a hinged pencil tin. And lately, especially over these past few years, I've noticed one of the most rewarding parts of my artistic journey has been the development of my plein air painting practice. And one of the things that's really rewarding is when I get to share my plein air adventures with folks that visit the Pocono region. One of the things I've discovered is that plein air painting is far more approachable than many people initially think. A lot of people imagine that outdoor painting requires years of training, expensive materials, or some deep technical understanding of art. But in reality, plein air painting can simply be slowing down, paying attention, spending time outdoors, and learning to notice light, shapes, atmosphere, and color a little bit more intentionally. And that's really what these experiences are all about. When we're plein air painting, our experience is not really designed to feel intimidating or overly academic. When I'm working with folks trying plein air painting for the first time, I try to design an experience that feels accessible, relaxed, flexible, and genuinely enjoyable. One of the things I love most about plein air painting is how portable and adaptable it could be. You really don't need much. Sometimes, as is the case here today, I'm working with very little. But you can have a successful experience painting on plein air just through the use of tiny sketchbooks, small canvas panels, watercolor kits, gouache, acrylic, ballpoint pen, graphite, or even a little mint tin painting setup, which I use quite often. And that flexibility is something I try to emphasize during plein air adventures when I'm hosting them and bringing people along with me, because people often will think things like, I'm not really an artist. But usually, what that means, or what they mean when they say things like that, is I haven't given myself permission to practice observing yet. And perhaps maybe I haven't given myself permission to try something new, something that I've always wanted to do. And in reality, observation is really at the heart of drawing and painting, and anybody can do that. Meanwhile, the Pocono region is an incredible place for this kind of practice because the landscape is constantly changing. The weather changes quickly, the light changes quickly, fog can roll through the valleys, clouds and their shadows could move across hillsides, streams reflect shifting color temperatures. And because everything is changing all the time, it actually teaches you to simplify. You have no choice. Because you begin realizing you can't paint every leaf, you can't chase every shadow, and honestly, that's where painting starts to become much more interesting. One of the ideas I talk about a lot during experiences where I'm hosting painters on plein air adventures is the importance of simplification. Nature contains infinite detail, but strong paintings usually depend on things like simple value relationships, large shape masses, and organized composition or design. So rather than trying to copy every detail in front of us, which is where most of us will oftentimes lose a good painting, I encourage people to look for the largest shapes first, the biggest light patterns, the clearest value relationships. And this becomes incredibly freeing or liberating for beginners, intermediates, and even sometimes more expert level painters who have forgotten to do so. Because suddenly the painting isn't about perfection anymore, it becomes more about interpretation. And that's something, once again, that we're all capable of. And that's where the value of art really comes into play because we all will have a way of interpreting what we're seeing that is unique to our own very being. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to mention that I have put a link to my learning page on my website in the notes for this video where you could view some of the workshop options that I make available through a couple of different platforms, including Airbnb Experience, Orbital, and also directly through my website from time to time. Check that out if you're interested in coming out and painting on plein air with me, or perhaps maybe taking advantage of some of the free lessons that I provide here on YouTube as well. Now, let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah, we were talking about the unique way with which everybody sees nature differently. And that's really where the value and the beauty inherent in the creation of art exists. Because when somebody takes the time to slow down, observe nature, and record it through their own interpretation of what they're viewing, you're getting a piece of them, a very intimate piece of them, how they think, how they feel, what draws their attention, and their unique way to translate that into a painting or a drawing. And that ties into what's amazing about watching people learn how to paint on plein air. It's amazing every time how quickly people begin to see differently when they start teasing out the little puzzle associated with every plein air painting that somebody tries to create. It's one of my favorite parts of painting with fellow artists and teaching people how to do it. Watching someone realize, oh, I don't actually need to paint everything. That moment changes everything when they realize that they are the editor in chief of their art. Another thing I really love about painting outdoors is that it naturally slows people down. Now, a lot of folks joke that I'm pretty slow to begin with, but maybe that's why I like the process of plein air painting so much because you never are really in a rush, even if you're fighting against natural elements that are causing you to feel the need to speed up a bit. It's still a slow process. And I think many of us need that. We spend way too much time indoors looking at screens. Sometimes we put our phone down just to look at the television or the computer screen. We're often moving too quickly or moving under the threat of some stressor or some negative consequence if we don't move fast enough. And we're constantly multitasking. So, plein air painting asks something very different from us. It asks us to observe carefully, to become patient, to notice subtle relationships, and to spend time in uncertainty. And oddly enough, that can become deeply calming. Even when the painting itself is challenging, or perhaps maybe we're losing something that we really enjoyed the process of creating because we've taken the painting too far, it's still a great time. Kind of reminds me, I think, something that my grandfather said jokingly, and you probably have heard the same adage as well. It's kind of like a fisherman. A bad day fishing is still better than a good day at work. The same is true for a day of plein air painting. If you don't get the outcome that you're hoping to get, it's still a good day. Of course, plein air painting also has a slightly chaotic side. Sometimes the wind tries to steal your paper or knocks over your easel, or bugs become emotionally invested in your palette, or even get stuck in the scene that you're painting. Your shadows might disappear in 10 minutes when you needed 30 minutes in order to complete the painting, or you realize halfway through the painting that you chose a very uncomfortable rock to sit on. All of that is part of the experience too, and honestly, those moments become some of the best memories. In fact, With just about every plein air painting that I've created over the past few years, which is hundreds, I can remember in an instant details of those moments while I was painting and the day that surrounds that painting time with more clarity and detail than I can most other memories. One of the things I enjoy most about working with folks and teaching them how to paint on plein air, specifically here locally in the Poconos, is that people come from all kinds of backgrounds. Some people explain that they've painted for years. Others haven't drawn since elementary school. Some are just traveling through the Poconos and they're looking for something interesting to do. Some are locals who have lived here for years. Some are nervous at first, but almost everyone discovers quickly that the process is much more forgiving than they expected because the goal isn't perfection. The goal is engagement, it's participation. It's all about learning to see. And I really believe that drawing and painting are closely connected to attention, and attention is becoming increasingly valuable. When you sit outdoors and truly observe the way distant trees simplify into the atmosphere, or the rhythms of the branches coming from the trunk of the tree, or reflected light in the water, shifting temperature in clouds, or the rhythm of the grass swaying in the breeze, you begin noticing the world differently. Perhaps maybe in a better way, not just as an artist, but as a person. And I think that's one reason plein air painting has remained so meaningful for so many artists throughout history. One thing I often tell beginners is that plein air painting is secretly a very powerful teacher because the conditions force you to prioritize. You have limited time, changing light, limited attention, and because of that, you naturally begin focusing on what matters most: large shapes, value structures, and composition. And maybe to a significant degree as well, atmosphere. In some ways, outdoor painting teaches simplification faster than most anything else. And honestly, I'm a huge believer in small studies, tiny paintings, quick sketches, simple exercises. Not every painting needs to become a masterpiece. Some paintings are simply practice, some are experiments, and some really are just excuses to spend time outdoors paying attention to what's going on around us in nature. And that's more than enough. That's extraordinarily valuable in and of itself. One of the unexpected things about teaching these experiences has been realizing how much people simply enjoy permission to slow down and create. A lot of adults quietly carry this belief that creativity belongs to somebody else, that art is reserved for professionals, experts, or naturally gifted people, but creativity is much more universal than that. Drawing is observation, painting is interpretation, and both are skills that grow through repetition and attention, not perfection. And honestly, I think plein air painting can help people connect with curiosity as well, because outdoors you start noticing things you normally would walk right past without even noticing: tiny shifts in color, interesting cloud formations, patterns in tree trunks, beautiful shadow shapes in ordinary places. Suddenly, a parking lot puddle becomes a value study, a roadside ditch becomes a composition, an overcast day becomes an atmosphere lesson. The world starts feeling visually alive again. And at the end of these experiences, when I'm hosting somebody out in the open, people usually leave with sketches, paintings, studies, and hopefully a little more confidence. But more importantly, they leave with a different relationship to observation itself. Because once you start seeing like a painter who works on plein air and you begin to see the scene in shapes and rhythms, in light, contrast, values, edges, and atmosphere, it's hard to stop noticing. And that's actually a wonderful thing. When that day comes, when you're walking down the road, perhaps maybe walking your dog or driving in your car, and you start to notice scenes and visualize how you might tackle a painting of that scene, you are in a wonderful state of mind. For me personally, plein air painting has become much more than simply making pretty pictures. It's become a practice of attention, a reason to spend time outdoors, a creative flywheel, which has generated many other really useful ideas, and a way to continuously simplify and reconnect with the landscape around me. And being able to share that process with people has been incredibly rewarding. I want to encourage you again to check out the link in the notes for this video where you could visit my learning page on my website and you can view the various workshop options ranging from free YouTube videos to paid workshops on a couple of different platforms. And I would even welcome the opportunity to provide one on one coaching if that's something you thought would be useful for you personally. If you ever find yourself visiting the Pocono region and the idea of spending a few quiet hours outdoors sketching, painting, observing, or just slowing down and being a little creative sounds appealing, I'd love to paint with you sometime. So, thanks so much for watching this video, and hopefully, I'll see you again on the next plein air painting adventure. I would love to have you come along with me. From here on out, I'm just going to allow you to enjoy the sounds of nature and watch the painting process unfold as I wrap up this little plein air study of the lily pads here on Blue Mountain Lake. Thanks for checking out this video and hearing me out. Hope you have a wonderful day. Stay well. And once again, I hope to see you again sometime soon, perhaps maybe on a plein air adventure live out here with me in the Poconos.